what that intro music means. It means Offside is in your ears right now. And we're sitting down for the second time with a person I had a blast with the last time we talked, Mr. Arda Ocal. Arda, how's the day treating you?
All good here. Glad to be back on the show. James and Pete, how are you guys doing?
Doing all right here, Arda. It's Tuesday night. We got a few questions we want to ask you. I can't wait to get into the retro video games.
Pete is
Me
very
too, my
excited,
friend,
by the
me
way,
too.
everybody, to talk to Arda about NHL 94 and other classic video games. And we will jump in and jump around to all kinds of different topics. Layout of the show tonight, we're going to talk to Arda about the All-Star weekend, what he liked, didn't like, go through some Maple Leaf stuff from his perspective, obviously, getting to talk about the NHL a fair bit these days. And then, of course, trade targets and different trade rumors he might think happen, might not happen. But let's kick it off with the weekend that was. How was All-Star weekend for you?
It was awesome. Personally, it was fantastic because I don't get to travel all that much with my role. I'm in studio a lot, which, by the way, I'm not complaining about at all. That's just the nature of the role. So this was a unique opportunity for me to get out of Bristol for a change. And I couldn't have picked a better place to go travel than South Florida, which was terrific. And I'll say that the NHL did a fantastic job, particularly with the beach festival. I have to say, I thought it was maybe the best sports fan fest I've ever seen.
Wow.
And maybe that's colored by the warm weather, the nice weather, the palm trees. It was at the beach. The setting was fantastic, but it also had a large footprint on the beach as well. It was like a mile long. It was just everything about it was a Grand Slam home run to me. So shout out to the NHL, Steve Mayer on down. They did a terrific job with that. And the All-Star festivities themselves, we had a blast. I did the drop with Greg Wyshynski, of course. We do the digital shows, like a preview show, pre-show leading into the All-Star game on Saturday, and we collected content all week long. Overall, it was a great success. For me personally, it was nice to meet a lot of new people and see some familiar faces while I was down there as well. So nothing but happiness and joy. Good vibes from me.
Awesome. Arda, did you have a favorite? What was your favorite event?
The favorite event for me, I liked the specific events. I thought those were cool. I thought the Connor McDavid, Nazem Kadri, was it like 12 rounds or whatever they went, like just a long round. That was a lot of fun. The breakaway challenge I thought was creative. I think that the breakaway challenge to me has the potential to be something special. I feel like maybe with some tweaks, it'll really truly become like last year. I think the players certainly embraced the creativity of it. This year there was some creative moments too. I saw Adam Sandler tweet out the you guys made me smile with the Happy Gilmore reference, for example, with David Pastrnak. So there was a lot of fun there. It's always better when the players are having fun too, right? When they embrace it, when they bring their creativity to it, it always makes for a better product. So I would say that I'm looking forward to Toronto next year, honestly, because I was thinking of what unique Toronto events will they hold? Like, will they have a pond hockey game? Will they be ripping pucks off the CN Tower? Like, what are they going to do?
Well, they got to do a little bit of one-upsmanship for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, they got to do something, right? Maybe they have a game at Yonge and Dundas Square or something like that. I don't know.
Get it around the city. Well, there's an idea that I want to talk about in Toronto in just a second, but I want to go back to Florida. Did you have a box of tissues when Crosby and Ovi came out with Ovi Jr., skated him on the ice? It kind of was like mending that fence, so to speak, of those two guys who really didn't want to be put on the same All-Star team, didn't want to be teamed up together for different things for a long period of time, just because of the competitive fire. But it seems like now the two of them are on the back nine and really embracing their roles. I think now is, I guess, ambassadors for the end of the game, kind of speak. What did you think of that moment? It was pretty special. Everybody got up for that one and really liked it.
Yeah, listen, they don't want to go to the All-Star game every year, or they don't have a chance to go, whatever the case may be. And I agree. I think that, they are two of the best players of their generation, and will certainly go down as two of the best players of all time. And certainly, especially in Ovechkin's case, if he's to beat Wayne Gretzky's record, will go down in the history books, right? Like, we will be speaking of these two players for generations to come. So I think that the fact that they embraced this and the fact that they requested to do this together is awesome. And not only that, it just speaks to the respect that they have for each other. I think the respect was always there. I don't think that
Yeah.
two players hated each other or disrespected each other. It's nice that it's showing itself in these kind of ways. I think it was Wyshynski that had this idea, but I kind of liked it. I thought it would have been mind blowing. Like the Twitter would have melted if they both wore each other's jerseys.
Oh, yes.
Or even just imagine if Crosby came out in like a Capitals Crosby jersey and Ovi came out in a Penguins Ovi jersey, like they just completely swapped just for that one moment. Like that would have been like, what am I seeing? Like
Twitter would have exploded.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Yeah, there would have been a lot of different comments. I think that would be a fun idea. Like, I think the whole experience this time around in Florida, you had more guys with the buy-in, more guys wanting to be there. Wondering, what were your thoughts on the dunk tank? Obviously, Crosby going in. I guess the rumor was that if Matthews did end up showing up and wasn't hurt, it was going to be Matthews and Marner doing the dunk tank as well, which would have been awesome.
That would have been cool.
Especially now reading, I think it's Jonas Siegel's article about how, Mitch is the fun guy and Matthews is more of the stoic, kind of grumpy sort of guy. If you read the article that way, that would have been fun to see. Maybe Mitchie dunk Matthews, or vice versa.
Oh, it would have been hilarious. Yeah, it would have made great content. I mean, listen, they can always do it for a social play. My favorite Mitch Marner thing from the weekend was the social team posted this hilarious video where they asked him to say the word Gator as many times as possible in his like post-game interview. And so they show the clip and it opens to him changing, and the social admin says, "We want you to say Gator as many times as you can in this interview." And he's like, "Gator." All right, cool. So then it goes to the interview, right? And like the scrum, and he says it like 9 or 10 times. And it was hilarious. Like stuff like that to me. And remember last year he embraced the whole Mitch Marner runs the Leafs TikTok thing where like they call that back every now and then. So yeah, listen, I mean, we all know that Toronto's not the easiest market to play in. There's a lot of eyeballs on the Leafs because it's really one of the most cared about things in the city, right? Like overall. So
yeah.
But for players to embrace it like this and enjoy it and have fun and show off their personality like this, I think is extremely important. And it carries weight whenever a team from a heavily invested market like Toronto does something like that. So it's cool.
No, it definitely does. And I think you look at the way that the league needs to market itself more too, especially players. You look at all of the other leagues and everybody is like Showtime. Like you look at the NBA, the NFL, even soccer now, it's big personalities, doing big things, and the other thing too, the skates that Marner wore.
Oh, they're awesome. Yeah, the Miami Vice suit was great. The Miami Vice suit was great. I wish I saw a little more on the breakaway, but maybe whatever. I mean, listen, I'm not the one taking the breakaways. I'm not nearly good enough to even get to that point. So whatever the case may be. I will say this, on your point about personality, I would love for all of hockey to get on board with, like, for example, I love touchdown celebrations. I love celebrations after a big jam in the NFL, in the NBA. I love celebrations after a goal in soccer. Let's start with some low-hanging fruit. This is my opinion, and this is what I would love to see be accepted across the board in the NHL.
Let's hear it.
If an NHL player scores a goal in overtime, they are allowed to celebrate how they please. If Jack Hughes wants to throw his stick in the crowd, if Jake Wallman wants to hit the gritty, whatever it is, a player that scores a goal in overtime, they are allowed to celebrate that goal however they want.
I'm okay with that. That's a great idea.
Let's take it one step further. Let's push the envelope a little bit. Why not individual goal songs when players score? Just like in baseball for walk-up songs, guys get to pick their song at the beginning of the year. They score, that snippet comes on, and that player celebrates the way they want to. It doesn't have to be long, but imagine if it's whatever song. Just pick a popular song right now.
Yeah, I know that the Sabres do that, I believe, and maybe a couple of teams in the NHL. But if every team did that, that'd be awesome. I absolutely love it, because some players take it really seriously, but others are just like, yeah, just give me, like, I don't know, Taylor Swift or something. Like a song that wouldn't be associated with a sports jam or something like that.
Yep.
That would be hilarious. I agree 100%. Actually, we got lucky this weekend. We got to interview Fall Out Boy, which was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Patrick and Pete from Fall Out Boy.
Oh,
and they have a new song out called Heartbreak Feels So Good that has a very like catchy, chantable chorus. And so we did this whole thing where in the interview, we basically put out a call to the Fall Out Boy fans to mobilize and to make this a goal song somewhere in the NHL. So whether it's a player picking it or whether it's a team next season or whatever, that would be a pretty cool choice for either a walkout song, like a skate out song, or a goal song.
Yeah, I just think that would it just opens Pandora's box to allow not only the player to go further, but more artists to be involved with the NHL, outside of the small window they usually use for all-star games or festivities. Yeah, just imagine. Oh, man, it'd just be, you got to come into Toronto. Obviously, if this could catch on quickly, Matthews or Marner, I know it'd probably be Matthews with Justin Bieber.
100%.
Comes out of the All-Star game to a song, bam.
Yeah. Why not?
The tie-in is there.
Like a whole notes.
Yeah, it's like all notes too. If you can't tell. Coming to Toronto, obviously All-Star game hasn't been there since 2000. We're just joking about some things that could be done. Dan O'Toole on Twitter had a great 7-part tweet about what the NHL should do. And one thing that really caught my eye, I got 2 young children. You know that, Pete? You know that? I think the Nickelodeon idea for Friday night, where, basically guys get slimed, you do different things, you have fun picking teams, you really ham it up on the kid side of things. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, more generally doing things that are kid focused, I'm all on board for. I think that there's a lot of potential there, and quite frankly, a lot of upside to it as well. I liked his idea as well about putting it at the Rogers Center. I think that would be absolutely terrific. I don't remember every idea off the top of my head, but that one really stuck with me. And I actually, in particular, I liked his point about how the fastest skater could just be one straight shot. Right. It kind of reminded me of, I know this one had a little bit of a turn, but remember when they did Donovan Bailey and Michael Johnson? I think it was it after the 96 Olympics?
I couldn't tell you.
I think it was after the 96 Olympics where they both won their events, like the 100 meter and the 200 meter. And then there was this big debate about who's the fastest in the world. So they decided to do this one-off exhibition event. It was 150 meters.
Yeah,
and was that at Rogers Center? I feel like it was.
I think it was
Skydome at the time.
Skydome at the time, but like that just popped in my head because it was the fastest connection. But they could have a straight shot, the NHL players, and it would be a really cool sight. And no doubt, let's not kid ourselves. No doubt would Toronto sell that out too.
Oh, they definitely would. I like the other idea too of not having to wait to move from event to event, where you'd have so much space to be able to operate in, to be able to have everything set up. I really like that idea. And also having different things like the keeping the soccer ball up, so all the fans are getting into it, and that kind of thing. Just getting everybody fired up, because that's something we all watch and really want to partake in and see. So, I mean, you get, one player from 7 or 8 different teams, and just have little squads, and then the best team keeps moving on, or whatever you want to make it. But then the other thing was guys winning actual prizes. He was like, sponsor would line up for that. Give away a boat, give away a car, give away this.
I agree.
There's your big sponsor right there. Oh, it's easy. But I mean, I just don't hope I hope it's not going to be stuffy. I want to ask your opinion on this too. They're talking about maybe shrinking it down to a few cities. It's something that was brought up. Bettman kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, but I'm wondering what you think. Do they go warm climate, and then few big cities, or should they keep it on the big rotation of every city gets it eventually?
So I see the appeal of both. Obviously, you want to reward cities that are doing well, and you want to be in some ways, you want to be fair and give all NHL markets an opportunity at the very least. Does it feel like, I mean, listen, everybody will agree, being in a warm climate, South Florida, no one was complaining about being there this weekend, right? There might have been a complaint or two if we were in -30 weather or facing a polar vortex or whatever parts of Canada we're facing, right? That's just a reality. A human being, like, you would rather travel somewhere nice with a warm climate. Now, with that said, Toronto certainly has the benefit of a lot of these players might have family in Toronto, or Toronto is a hotbed for hockey. So I don't know if that's necessarily a pull for the players. Maybe it is as easy as they just love warm weather and they'd rather be somewhere that they can vacation with their families, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, the NHL, it's an event. This is a spectacle, right? Like this is a way to attract new fans, or a way to break up the season, or give something interesting or unique every year that people can look forward to. And so,
also from the business side too, you kind of reward your sponsors as well, right?
yes, exactly. Reward sponsors. There's a lot of business implications here. And look no further than the Beach Festival and the amount of activations there that were sponsored. I mean, it's very important for the league and for revenue and for business interaction and collaboration. So I see the benefit of that. I mean, do I think it could shrink to certain cities? I think that in order for that to happen, I feel like other cities would need to have a benefit of other things. Maybe the Stadium Series takes the place of that. Like maybe we see other marquee events get to travel to other cities so they can participate in some way in some larger than life kind of event. But I do feel like there would be complaints from certain cities, or concern, I should say concern from certain cities, if they're not at least in the running to get an all-star game or some sort of special event.
No, I can see the Stadium Series being it's not as big as a ticket. And I think another ticket that a lot of people really like to have, or the ability to try to get, was the NHL awards as well. We know that's kind of locked to Vegas now, kind of, so to speak.
And remember, there's logistics too, right? Like in Vegas, everything is so close together that the logistics and the moving around and the one thing about South Florida was FLA Live Arena was 35, 45 minutes away from the beach. So there was a lot of going back and forth. If you were a media member, for example, and wanted to cover something at the beach, then go to the arena for press conference or whatever, this day, that day, and you're going back and forth. There was a lot of movement. So at a place like Vegas, where everything is condensed, the appeal to that is pretty big, right?
Dad, no, I can definitely see it. One thing I wanted to ask you about the Florida event, Bo Horvat obviously being traded last week, coming to the All-Star game, wearing the Islander jersey, or not the Islander, the Vancouver Canucks jersey. Was there any good nature ribbing that took place there that you might have heard of?
I didn't hear directly, but he did say it was weird at first to have to sign his name with a different number as opposed to the one he used to wear in Vancouver. So it was just kind of, he had to get used to that when he was signing autographs, when people were giving him Islanders merchandise to sign, for example. So that was kind of funny. But listen, that's a unique circumstance. It hasn't happened that often. I know in 1990, Bernie Nichols got traded during the skills competition. So that's even more unique. Imagine participating in the skills competition on behalf of the Kings and then getting off the ice and being informed that you were traded to the Rangers.
That's funny.
It's like, what a crazy.
Is there a freeze during the All-Star game where they can't trade? Is that a thing? No. Okay.
Not really. You can. It's the trade deadline, right? So basically, I mean, someone could have been conceivably traded during the All-Star game or whatever the case may be. Maybe there's a gentleman's. I'm not aware of any official freeze. Maybe the GMs just take the day off. I don't imagine that is the case, but
like Brian Burke used to say, right, when he ran the Leafs, he had the self-imposed trade freezes during certain points so guys didn't get upset. And I mean, I guess you don't want to upset the apple cart. It is what it is. For you next year, Toronto, it's going to be fun. Justin Bieber is going to be involved. Obviously, that amplifies things for the entire league, gets everybody excited. I want to
Can't
ask
wait to see the
you.
ticket prices.
That's what I was going towards. This is going to. We talk about the Sky Dome. Obviously, if they did something there, or Rogers Center, they did something there. That would be huge. I think you can get more people there. But if it's going to be at the Scotiabank Arena, what do you think a fan is looking for ticket wise, and how sought after is that event going to be? Obviously, headlined by the Beebs.
So I don't know what the ticket prices will be like, but I do know that it will be a very highly sought after ticket. I also wonder about the people traveling. There is a lot of people that travel. This is a destination event, right? Because they know it's a whole week's worth of activities or at least a few days. So it's kind of worthwhile to make a vacation out of it, go to Skills, go to All-Star, whatever the case may be, right? So in Toronto's case, they could sell that out 2 times over with the local people alone, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder what the strategy will be to allow people coming from out of town to buy tickets, or is that going to be a consideration, or whether or not this is even a moot point if they do it at Rogers Center. I mean, who knows, right? I think it would be a very smart idea, but I'm not the one organizing it, so
No,
so who knows?
hopefully that's one you get to attend, though. I mean,
Oh, it'd be amazing. I get to go home. I get to see all my old friends, everything, but cover an event in my hometown. That'd be great.
Oh, absolutely stunning. We talk a lot about the Maple Leafs. Before we get there, Pete has a couple questions he wants to ask you about retro games.
Sure.
Yeah.
Throw it to him and let those.
Yeah, I looked online and I saw a trading card. You have your own online trading card. Do you want to go into that? Like what? And you have a record on NHL 94. Can you explain what that record is and why NHL 94 may be the best game ever created?
Absolutely. I definitely, what was the record was for NHLPA 93, and it was for most discrepancy in goals. It was like the largest goal difference. It was me. And so, like, in all honesty, a good friend of mine just happens to be the NHL 94 world champion. Basically, it's like I'm like the Marty Jannetty to his Shawn Michaels, if you guys watch wrestling.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
We basically like just tag team this where I'm riding his coattails to 42-0 victory or something. And we set a world record recognized by the official video game record keeping body. And it's just, listen, it was just a lot of fun. And I just love saying that I'm a world record holder, so. But yeah, in terms of the playing card, I think Walter Day, who's a video game historian, has been in the scene for a very long time. He makes cards for a lot of people, and he just happened to make me one just because I had the record. So he's like, "Here you go, have a playing card in your honor." And I was like, "Awesome. I'm not going to say no to this." So I appreciated that very much.
Yeah, that's wicked. Thanks, Arda.
Now, for the record, obviously, to get into that, what preparation went into it? How long did it take? Was it multiple tries? Was it one go and hey, we got this? I read a couple articles
were you playing as?
You went into it, so
yeah. So you play as like the All-Star West or All-Star East or something like that against like the Ducks or Senators, like the worst team in the league in that year. Yeah. And then you just score as many goals as you can, and no preparation really, just a lifetime of playing that game. Just playing video games, right, for a lifetime, and then you just basically play for as long as you can and whatever. I think we played for an hour. And whatever the best score we got was, we just submitted it. So we just happened to be able to beat the record, which was really cool.
That is awesome. Now, I read that basically, I think it was it 96 was when you were done? You didn't play anything beyond that, even though the newer games came out. Have you picked up any of the sticks for any of the newer games recently? Or are you still just in those years, those are your years and your glory, that's where you keep it?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I played the most, NES and that 16-bit generation. I definitely played the newer games more when I was commentating on them. When I was doing the NHL Gaming World Championship, I'd play the games a lot more just to get the mechanics of it and everything. I haven't played this year's edition too much, but I still love that the scene is thriving. I actually had a chance to catch up with a lot of the NHL esports people this week. They actually had a gaming event, and we crashed the broadcast, Nasher and I. Which was a lot of fun. It was really cool to be a part of that. And yeah, no, I honestly, if I'm playing video games, I play different games if it comes to it. And
what are you playing on? Are you PlayStation or Xbox?
Neither. I play on PC. I usually either mobile games. I'm not really a competitive gamer guy. I'll play like Hearthstone Battlegrounds or Tetris or something like that. More
Nice.
puzzle games, more fun stuff like that, just to clear the mind, almost like a form of meditation, I guess.
Yo, Pete, you got to get him on Hurdle with you. That'd be a fun
yeah,
line
Hurdle's
game.
a lot of fun. It's
Okay.
like Wordle. It's like Wordle, but you guess the NHL player.
Oh yeah. Wasn't there a Gordle too or something like that? Hurdle sounds funny though.
Yeah, it's funny play on words.
It is. Dylan's another guy who's on the podcast usually with us, Arda. Unfortunately, he works evenings, so he's not able to jump on this one. He had a question that he wanted us to ask about you and Nasher actually touring the Columbus Blue Jackets facility. What was that like? How did that all come about? And what were some standout things for you touring the facility?
Yeah, it was great. It was a fantastic day. We went to Columbus. They were opening their fan zone, which is basically like an esports arena meets the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's one of the most expansive. It was very impressive to me. One of the most expansive fan experiences that you can find in an arena. I hadn't seen anything like that, especially at an NHL arena. It was just incredible what they were able to build there. So I know a lot of people in their front office really well. Their CMO, Kate Dobbs, and their VP of content, Marcus. He's a great dude. And there just a lot of wonderful people that work there. And so they invited me out with Nasher as well to just basically cover and launch the fan zone. And we just had a day's worth of activities, which included an alumni game, which was awesome. We got to skate with a bunch of the alumni like Rick Nash and Jody Shelley and Aaron Johnson, a bunch of others. That was a blast. And then just do a bunch of stuff, play bubble hockey, play some video games, go around. Yeah, it was just, it was one of the more fun experiences I've had at an arena. And yeah, I think the Blue Jackets, they have a terrific organization there, top to bottom. Their front office is excellent. And yeah, we captured a lot of great content that week. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, speaking of content, I see you on TikTok and you post some pretty good videos. Like, how do you pick and choose which ones you want to talk about?
Yeah, that's been a pet project of mine. I just have this desire, this like urge, this fire to grow that. And I'm noticing that it's going well so far. I'm just always looking for ways to improve there and grow. And I'm just the random facts guy. I just love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just try and find I just find some random topics like the Bernie Nichols thing. That's how I knew about it, because I researched it for a TikTok. And so just stuff like that. Anytime I come across something that's interesting or my ESPN stats team always brings a lot of interesting stuff per game. If there's anything fun there, I'll turn it into a TikTok. Or if I see anything online that's I find fascinating, maybe I'll dive into it more. Things like that. Like this week, I want to do something on like NHL connections with the NFL leading into the Super Bowl. Stuff like that. I just find, whatever I find interesting, but I also think that the hockey fan or my audience would find interesting, I just want to post.
No, it's the best way to be. I mean, that's what we all do too. Find something that's either current or trending or whatever, or something that was trending at one point in life, like today. Obviously, it's February the 7th, back in 1976. We all know a guy named Daryl Sittler who scored 10 points in a game. So that's a big thing. And nobody was talking about it really today. So why not make a video about it and just big it up? Obviously, no Maple Leafs hockey till the weekend. So got to get the Maple Leafs in where you can. And speaking of those Maple Leafs, Art, I want to ask you, we talked last year about that iteration of the team. This year, I think the team's taken some steps. From your 30,000 point view, what do you think of this year's team? Again, top 5 in the standings so far, doing what they usually do with less from Matthews, by the way, not exactly on the torrid pace he was last year, but doing it with new goaltenders, a revamped D, but a buy-in more so than we've seen from this team. Do you see anything different for the Maple Leafs this year?
I think the difference to me as somebody who covers the entire league is that we're not talking about, I'm saying this as somebody who's not covering hockey in Toronto. I live in the States. I cover it nationally. We're not talking about the Leafs as much as we did. I'm not saying that as a negative thing.
It's probably
saying maybe, but also I think a lot of other teams are grabbing so many headlines. I think there are so many other teams to like the surprises of like the Devils and the Kraken, and how the Bruins are going on a historic season, and how the Buffalo Sabres are an exciting team to watch. Like, there are a lot of teams. The Golden Knights are back. Like, at one point, the division leaders, 3 out of the 4 were not in playoff positions last year. They missed the playoffs last year at one point in the season for quite a stretch, actually. 3 of the 4 were non-playoff teams last year, and now they were leading divisions. Like, it's just, there's a lot more. There's a lot of storylines to talk about. So it hasn't been necessarily focusing on the Leafs, even though they've been doing so great. And honestly, maybe that's refreshing to them too, because how many times can we talk about, well, they haven't won in the first round since 2004. They haven't won a cup since 1967. This, that, the other thing, right? Like, how many times can you bring that up unless we're actually doing a game of theirs? And there are great things to talk about with this team. The surprising nature of the goaltenders, and how Mitch Marner's having another fantastic year, and Willie Nylander's contributing at the way that he is, and the defensive unit, Mark Giordano and his contributions, and who else, like there are other things to talk about with this team other than the obvious things. And like you said, like it's funny because it's like, okay, maybe Austin Matthews regressed from last season, but last season was like an all-timer, right? Like, it's just kind of funny. Like, he still has 25 goals. Like, he's still on pace to score 50. Like, if he really pushes it, right? Like, that's not going to be a bad season. It's not like we're going to look at that and be like, oh man, boy, he really, really did not do well this year. Like, what a failure. No one's going to say that, right? Like, so.
I don't know if you've been on to the Toronto market. I mean, if he doesn't score 60, I think Leaf social media
blow it up, sell the team. You know what? Sell the team. Move the team to Houston. All right. If he can't get 60 goals this season, Kansas City, you've got your NHL team back. Renaming them the Scouts. It's over.
Yeah. Listen, I say what you're saying is refreshing because here in Canada, the Toronto-centric media, it is always churning this, but it's the same things like you just said, though. How do they get out of round one? It's impossible for them to beat Tampa. They're not going to match up to Boston. It's always the same thing. So I like getting different perspectives. And maybe I like to live in fantasy land, as Craig Button said, but I like the fact that the Leafs are doing better this year. I like that I see an improved game from Marner, from Nylander. Matthews' 200-foot game is growing.
And the goaltending.
The goaltending looks good, but even the defense, you look at the metrics, you go look at the stats, they're not at the bottom of the league in allowing goals or anything. They're at the tops for least goals against. But everybody's crying like the D's no good. I like hearing what you just said, about talking about having different things or not talking about them at all. Because
it's not, and again, it's not a disrespectful thing.
No, I know.
There are so many other storylines around the league that are interesting to hockey fans that of course, when you live in Toronto covering the team, that's all you're going to be focusing on. Of course, I'm not saying that. I'm saying from a national perspective, at least in the States, that's how it's been. So
I want to ask you this. The way the team's constructed, obviously, there's going to need to be probably a couple of moves for bottom six-wise for this squad. But from what you've been able to see and what you've been able to gather, what would you say the Maple Leafs' glaring weakness would be? Obviously, we've seen them play the Boston Bruins, and it did not go well. But, I mean, it's one game in February. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't show everything. You have an 82-game dress rehearsal for the playoffs.
Yep.
So you have to take a little bit from every game and see where you are. But what would you say, just from your eye in the sky, this Leafs team needs what to be a little bit better or over the top even?
They need continued good goaltending. I think that's important. When Matt Murray's healthy, Ilya Samsonov, are those two going to be playoff push goaltenders? I think that's my biggest question, right? Like that's going to always be everyone's biggest question is goaltending will definitely, steal you wins, etc. Do they need in terms of their defense, Gio in the playoffs, how is he going to perform? He's been great. How will this defensive unit play? That's going to be certainly a question. Morgan Riley returning is a big thing, right? Like, remember, how he scored his first goal of the season and you could just see the relief on his face, just imagine how much he was itching to play after everything he's gone through, maybe that's good in a way. Like, not obviously you don't want to see any player injured, but just coming into the season now, maybe a shot in the arm for the team. These are the dog days, right? So a shot in the arm is good. Maybe keeps them a little bit more refreshed going into the playoffs. Do they pick up a defenseman? Do they pick up a centerman? Do they they have John Tavares, and they have some good pieces, obviously, but is that a concern to them? Is that something that they want to focus on or have a concern for? So I don't know. I'm looking at their forward lineup right now, and it's pretty strong, man. Like it's a pretty strong offensive core. Like if you're gonna tinker, I don't know. Do you add a veteran Stanley Cup champion to this? Like, is that what you're looking at? I mean, they did that, right? With like a who did they like? Yeah, like a Foligno or sorry, a veteran presence is what I meant. They've done that before with Spezza and Joe Thornton, etc. So, but I mean, otherwise, I think this is a very, very solid lineup. And here's the other thing: to me, the storylines align because it kind of already feels like they're going to be playing Tampa in the first round again, unless like something seismic changes, right? Like, I think both teams, like on top, Boston is like 9 points clear, and then the Sabres in the Atlantic below them are like 6 points or 8 points behind, right? So it's almost like, well, unless something really catastrophic or seismic happens, you're on a collision course for the blue and white teams to play again this year, right? And last year they lost by a goal in Game 7, and Vasilevsky was like, well, we know how Vasilevsky is in elimination games, and he was so good in that game. It took a Morgan Riley like laser beam that like basically like placed itself like a puzzle piece in the top corner to score on the guy in that game. And they only lost 2-1, right? Nick Paul got 2 goals, right? So like, in a vacuum, that playoff series was not bad for the Leafs. They played hard. There were a lot of positives. They lost by 1 goal. But we're not what Toronto fan is looking at it in a vacuum, right? Like you don't look at it from a season. You're looking at it from years and years of not making it past the first round and whatever else, right? So it's almost like, like this was so. If they play each other again, then I wonder, that the Leafs, there's the revenge factor from last year. This is 4 straight after 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances. Now you're going into your 4th playoffs. Like that's a lot. So there's a lot more, interesting stuff there.
Yeah. Well, with Tampa too, they know how to turn it on, at certain points of the season to heat up the right times. Right. I mean, they went on that one season where it was like the Bruins are right now, where they're beating the entire breaks off the league.
Yeah.
And then they go into the playoffs and they go out 4 straight to Columbus. And a lot of people are joking maybe that happens to Boston. But I look at the Leafs and I look at the Bolts and I say, well, you're sizing up your competition. So if the Leafs need anything, in my humble opinion, you add maybe another defenseman, like maybe a Gavrikov or a Muzzin-esque type. I still believe Jake Muzzin comes back in the playoffs, by the way. I think that
would be huge, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to come back
for him. That's been tough, right? That's been really difficult. For him as a player, just what he's been going through since joining the team, but also just like that's rough. That's rough.
It is rough. And I mean, I guess the good thing right now is he is traveling with the team. He's with the team all the time, working out with the team, all that stuff. So my big tinfoil hat theory has been maybe he gets to go on a Shea Weber, Carey Price kind of run. They bring him in for the playoffs. If anything at all seems off, they take him off the ice. He's done, but allow him to play his way out.
Is it? I just saw. I'm just noticing Nick Robertson on IR. Is he gone for the whole season?
He is. Yeah,
he's gone for the season, right? Yeah.
So the separated shoulder.
Got it. Yeah, that's what it was. Boards. That's right. Yeah. That's
right. But a player for me that I really like, and this might be a guy that everybody wants to get on board with, is Noel Acciari from the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
Played for the Boston Bruins, went on the run with them when they faced St. Louis in the final. He knows what it takes to win. He's a guy that can pot you goals, be a little physical, mix it up. Probably isn't going to cost you a whole heck of a lot. And that seems to be the MO of the Leafs anyway. They don't want to spend their first or knives. So maybe you start spending the other assets you have. But if you shore up your bottom 6, I mean, the Leafs already have, if Muzzin does come back, 8 NHL-ready defensemen by that point? Because you'll have Connor Timmins, you have Jordy Ben. Who else do you have sitting around? If that's the thing, Liljegren, Sandin, Gio, you go down the list. they have a lot of guys. I mean, adding another depth defenseman really doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Shoring up the bottom six is where it does. But again, I'm not Kyle Dubas, and I don't know what kind of moves he's got up his sleeve, but I think that's where the Leafs would need to match up better against the Tampa Bay Lightning is in the bottom six.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a few names. I'm sure Pete might have a couple here. Trade deadline's coming. There's a lot of big names rumored, as always, to be on the move. I'll just say a name and you can say yes or no. Do you think Chychrun goes anywhere?
Yes.
Do you think Timo
I think
Meier
the thing with Chychrun is it's like there's so many teams already connected to him that it almost feels like where there's smoke, there's fire. So it just feels like there's already pieces being moved with him,
Yeah. Well, said if Chychrun goes, I think Nick Bjugstad goes with him to a certain team, center depth, bottom part of your roster.
Yeah. What do you think, Patrick Kane? Do you think he stays put? Or?
Him over Taves. I think Patrick Kane goes. But here's the thing. I mean, obviously they have no moves, so they would have to agree to this. And they've won 3 cups, so I wonder what the motivation is there. Because sometimes players just want to. If they had both not won a cup, yes, guaranteed definitively, I would say yes. But I just wonder what their home life is like. Do they like being in Chicago? Are they happy with the money they're making and the situation that they're in, family, the city, etc.? Those are all factors that come into it. Even if they go as a rental, that's still a strain on the family, whatever the case may be, right? So I'm not 100% sold on both of them being traded at the trade deadline, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we saw that happen.
Another Chicago player, Jake McCabe.
Yeah, I think a few trades could happen. Max Domi could happen. Andreas Athanasiou could happen. I think that not many people are safe from trade opportunities, safe, quote unquote. Not many people are off the board in terms of trade opportunities, at least with the GM would listen.
Never a bad thing if you're looking to recoup assets. Another player, big name, Timo Meier.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Devils are already lobbying hard, especially after Bo Horvat got off the board. Devils fans are like, okay, Timo, come over. All right. We're monitoring all the flights from San Jose to Newark with vested interest. So this is being monitored at the tightest of opportunities here.
What do you think about Ryan O'Reilly or Tarasenko?
Yeah, those guys are on. I was watching a Gino Reda video actually on TikTok of all things, and he had both of them. Yeah, he's been doing fantastic too. I mean, he's a legend, right? He's awesome. So he had Tarasenko and O'Reilly 4 and 5 on his trade bait board, and again, would not be surprised if those two were on the move somewhere.
Here's a name that's a little bit difficult to move given his contract, but Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's really the contract. There's too much term. It's very expensive, but Erik Karlsson's having a career year, right? So if you're a team that needs offensive firepower on their blue line, that might very well be a great option for you, but that's going to be a very tough situation unless you can get a team to retain some salary, and if you're willing to mortgage and whatever, if you bring in a third team maybe that eats up a lot of that salary for the time being, or whatever the case may be, however you finagle it, that's a tough one though. I have a name for you guys.
Okay, let's go.
Austin Matthews.
Listen, I'll be the first one to say right here, that guy ain't going nowhere.
But Justin Bieber won't let him leave. Come on now. He's going to stay.
Austin Matthews will stay at Maple Leaf.
Are you saying, big hot take, that Austin Matthews will not be traded this trade deadline? Is that what you're saying?
Huge hot take. Austin Matthews is off the trade bait board.
Wow. Okay. Massive.
Sorry. But we'll put William Nylander on there just to make everybody happy.
Oh, my. Was it Mike Rupp that put up a shout out to Rupper who what was it? He put up a Twitter video about how Austin Matthews is gonna. There was something that was something where he made the Arizona Austin Matthews joke, and then he issued a video apology on Twitter, and he was like, "I'd like to apologize about what I said about Austin Matthews. Something about the reason I'm apologizing is because I forgot to add William Nylander to that conversation."
I gotta see this video.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, you gotta go find Rupper. Yeah, it was really good. It was really, really good. It was one of those like you had me in the first. They had us in the first half. Not gonna lie, kind of moments. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, no, he killed it. He crushed it. I'm laughing thinking about it now. Two other players, or three actually. I got three players left in mind. Dylan Larkin, Detroit, staying.
Woo, that's a tough one because I wonder what Steve Yzerman is thinking there. He's great at building teams. That team isn't that far off. I think they might need better goaltending. I think that was a disappointment for them. I think Nedeljkovic and other pieces might have been, something that they would hope have gotten maybe a little bit more from. But they were competitive at one point. They looked good. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm gonna lean no. But I'm not like emphatically no.
Yeah, well, the rumor ask for him for a contract is $9 million a year, and I don't think Stevie Y wants to go that far. So
that could be that's another big thing, right? So
yeah, big dart there. Another one, Tyler Bertuzzi, obviously another Red Wing. That's a player that's been rumored to be on the move for a couple seasons now, but again, another player that's not moving off his demand list. And I know there's some issues with him, I guess, with vaccine status and stuff like that might make it hard to move him to a Canadian market, and things like that. Do you see him staying put? He's a Detroit kind of guy. I think he should stay put, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe they're happy being in the city, whatever the case may be. But for either of those guys, Detroit's a tough one because I wonder where they are leaning. I don't know if they're a blow it up entirely situation team. So those are going to be interesting conversations and decisions, I think.
And then everybody's favorite team lately with all the things they do, the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh, yeah.
Thatcher Demko. Now
yeah,
that's
a tough one. That's a tough one. And the rumor is he requested a trade. I believe that is the big rumor out there. So whenever that happens, sometimes it's not the player that's putting that out there. It's other people in the circle of the players. So if that is the case, then certainly conversations are already being had.
Yes. All right. So we'll wrap on the NHL stuff there. There was a question that was posed to me here. What do you think of the WWE sells? This is a wrestling question because of your wrestling background, of the WWE possibly changing their name. There's been a couple of rumors stated if they were sold, they may actually change from the WWE to something else. What would you think of that? Obviously, I think the brand is pretty strong. I don't know why you'd want to mess with that.
Give me some details. I have not heard this. I would be absolutely shocked. There has to be some sort of larger reason why they would even consider changing their name and brand. I know that WWE they're very brand focused. So for them to change, unless AEW buys them and folds them into AEW, maybe I could see the brand going dormant or becoming a secondary brand or something like that. But like if that, I don't know. It just seems, what was the impetus behind that?
I guess it was if it was sold to Saudi Arabia, from what I'm gathering here on the question. They have their own, I guess, spin they want to put on the name. So it's what they want to put it as. But it would be the WWE would be gone. So it wouldn't be WWE. It would be something else.
Well, I will say this. I mean, obviously, whoever buys it can do whatever they want with it. I suppose... I guess it just depends on your motivations for buying, right? Like, for example, if it's Comcast and if they purchase WWE, if this even happens, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing. If the purchase does happen, and let's say it is Comcast, their motivation would probably be content, right? So why would you want to change the name if content is your motivation? Because that's how everyone knows. Like, brand recognition is at 100%, right? Like, who doesn't know what WWE is? Yeah, sometimes people still confuse it for WWF or whatever, but like, who doesn't know what that wrestling company is? So there has to be a real different motivation in order for the name to change.
Right. Arda, we noticed your name while you were working in the WWE was different. What, you were going as Kyle Edwards? Why was that? And just a little backstory.
The funny thing is that my first assignment as Kyle Edwards was appearing in Canada during the news updates during Raw and SmackDown, where that was the only country that knew me as Arda in the first place. So that was really funny. It's like, wait a minute, we know this guy. It's not Kyle. Who's Kyle? So anyway, I knew that the name would change. I thought was part of the deal when I got there. I knew that would happen. They like to own the names, IP, obviously, but also they, especially at that time, they were a big fan of two first names as names, like Tom Phillips, Justin Roberts, Jim Ross, Michael Cole, Kyle Edwards. That some of them were their real names, and other ones they just changed the names, whatever, last name or whatever. So Kyle Edwards was mine. It was chosen for me, and yeah, I didn't have any problem with it because I knew it would happen.
Oh, okay.
No worries. One question I have about the indie wrestling scene, it's kind of popping off here where I am. I'm out in Nova Scotia right now. For you, do you get out to indie events for wrestling if you get the opportunity to, given where you are, or is there any kind of scene there? And what do you like better when it comes to wrestling? Do you like the big show and spectacle of a WWE, lesser extent AEW, or do you like the smaller feel? I can say the last wrestling event I went to, I was standing right on the ring and actually pounding on the ring as they were doing the matches, which is pretty awesome.
I did a lot of independent wrestling events when I was coming up, actually, like the mid 2000s, a lot in Ontario. We actually did a cross Canada tour from Ontario all the way to Saskatchewan. We did shows in the Canadian Arctic and Nunavut. It was awesome. I had a great time in the indie wrestling scene. And what I loved about it the most was a lot of the wrestlers, like obviously you get a lot of weekend warriors, right? Like I was one in a way. Like I had dreams of working in sports broadcasting, hockey, and also wrestling, but I wasn't on the road, 4 or 5 days a week. It was always weekend shows or whatever, and within driving distance, 8-hour drive or whatever, go to North Bay or go wherever from Toronto. So but there were also people who were really close to making it or getting signed or getting looks or tryouts. And that was always fun to go with them to their tryouts and, talk to them about their matches and things like that. Like that to me are memories that I will certainly remember. And there were a lot of easy people to root for. To see some people succeed in WWE now or just in pro wrestling in general now is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to watch. Like I said, I'm rubbed elbows with a few people here now, and they're just great people, great stories too.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a story about something crazy that's happened.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, Arda, I want to ask you this question. We're just over the midway point of the NHL season. If you had to pick a Stanley Cup winner at this moment in time, what would be the horse you back in the race?
Yeah, it would have to be the Bruins because they're doing so well. But I will say this. There are a lot of Bruins fans at ESPN. I know my sample size is very small, but they're all very concerned that the curse of the 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning will follow them, and they will have the best season ever, followed by being swept in the first round. So that is their concern. They're like, we're happy this is happening, but we're also a little apprehensive because we don't want another 2019 Lightning situation to follow us.
Wouldn't it be something if at least finally get out of the first round? They beat Tampa,
storybook ending,
and then it's Buffalo in the second round.
Oh,
what a matchup that would be!
Incredible. But also Buffalo is like Toronto's number for the last 30 years, so that might also be pretty tough. It's like they just can't beat Buffalo no matter what.
Let us dream of how wonderful it would be to go on those kind of runs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Arda, I want to thank you very much for dropping by yet again.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe get you on towards the playoffs like we did last year. But ladies and gentlemen, this right here, this is Offside Hockey Talk, where the Maple Leafs and hockey come to talk.